A new documentary called You and Me takes an in-depth look at the inner workings of the United Nations, and it exposes the organization as a haven for corruption and chaos. It refuses to define or even fight terrorism.
You know, the UN member states have not been able to agree upon a definition of terrorism.
Definition of terrorism is a very difficult thing.
And this is one of the pending matters in the United Nations.
My own view, quite frankly, is that terrorism is rather like pornography. You might not be able to define it, but you know it when you see it.
This is the Webster Dictionary.
Yes.
And we actually have a definition right here.
Yeah, okay.
You could take it to them. You could show it to the General Assembly.
I am sure that they know the Webster's definition and certainly the definitions that appear in other dictionaries.
Systematic.
But the problem is a definition that can be agreed to by everyone.
Well,
that is the difference.
If Webster's could do it, everybody can agree to this.
Well, I don't know if that's Webster's view.
Joining me now is the creator of You and Me, Ami Horowitz. Ami, it was great to, I enjoyed the film, but it was disturbing. You got the United Nations that can't even define terrorism. Our president goes to the UN this week. He doesn't mention it, yet we've got a dead ambassador to show for what I guess is an undefinable cause.
I didn't realize the word terrorism was so difficult and so amorphous to figure out what it is. I try to spoon-feed it to the guy with the dictionary, but apparently Webster has a view on terrorism.
What was it that motivated you to take on the United Nations?
You know, it's interesting. It was a moment, and I was sitting at home and I was watching a Michael Moore movie, Bowling for Columbine, and I had no, I've seen a lot of movies, but I never actually made one, and I don't know, I can't tell you why, but I was just started thinking about the UN and the bias against Israel, its failure to stop, Rwanda and Sudan, and I needed to do something. And I looked over the screen, I saw this Michael Moore entertaining, engaging medium. I thought, this is the vehicle, this is the medium I want to use to express my point of view. And I literally quit my job in the next couple of weeks and started raising money and I put the movie together.
It was remarkable to see almost this sort of clueless attitude on the part of people at the UN that they never could really define what it is they do, because they don't do anything. They never condemn acts of genocide. They don't condemn even their own corruption. They don't even investigate it. What's going on?
Well, that would take backbone, and they don't have any backbone. When it comes down to it, they're all trying to protect their own backsides, right? Why would you want to define terrorism if half of your membership, are terrorist states, or a significant percentage of it? That's why they don't want to do it. They don't want to start calling out their own members, and they're artful at never passing judgment. That's their thing. They don't ever want to pass judgment. They don't want to have a standard, and because of that, at this point, it's completely hopeless.
Ahmadinejad, president of Iran, he's a complete nut job. They give this guy a forum at the United Nations. He goes in. He talks openly to reporters and in forums about wiping Israel off the map and a new world order to get rid of these Zionists. I mean, that's incredible inflammatory speech under any circumstance. Why does the UN give people like that a forum to express really provocative language and threaten another country?
Because to them, well, there's a couple of ways you can look at it. I think a darker view would be that these are views that a lot of these people agree with. And I think another view you can take is that this is an issue, again, it goes back to the whole idea of if you're not going to set a standard and pass judgment, then of course he can speak. He's no different than anybody else. I mean, it's interesting. The UN has an already unimaginably high bar for anti-Semitism. And I think they exceeded it with Ahmadinejad speaking on the holiest, Jewish day of the year. Although I got to say, I was a little bit underwhelmed by his speech. You're always looking for that singular moment of despotic lunacy where you kind of lean back and say, he nailed it.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like he missed the mark.
What was the most shocking thing that you discovered in making the film You and Me?
Let me count the ways. I mean, you're always blown away and shocked at every turn. I mean, I knew that it was bad. I didn't realize how deep the rabbit hole went. One moment which really, on a serious note, really shook me to my core was during the Rwandan genocide, people were wondering, where is Boutros Ghali? I forget how many Boutroses there are in his name. And he was out on vacation collecting these awards. And it then came to light afterwards that why was he not taking action? Well, he had funded the Rwandan genocidaires just prior. He's the guy who got the weapons which the UN financed. That really, it was a moment that kind of just blew me away.
I got to tell you, in watching the film, it was the moment that was the aha moment. And I thought for a long time, this is a worthless organization. At that point, I began to think it's a corrupt and criminal enterprise, not just worthless. Ami, it's a wonderful documentary. People should see it. If they have any doubts about whether or not the UN is an effective organization, I think this film will erase any of those doubts. Thanks for putting it together, and delight to have you here today.
It's my pleasure. Always good to see you.